I need to calculate your BMR. So just what your body burns calorically at rest.
Okay.
So I did all that, and then I calculated your protein. But there are some like just quick tips that people can take away from this as well that I'll go over about how to calculate their protein. So your full panel, I used his weight in kilograms and his height in centimeters and his age. And I did this formula and I got his BMR, which is 1,913 calories. He burns just existing. If he just laid in bed all day, that is how much he would be burning a day.
Heck yeah. So
Yeah.
when you say that, that is just like the natural way that like the natural oven within my body, I guess you could say. Is that what you're?
Yeah. So the energy required to keep you alive and to keep you in your form. So your muscles are constantly requiring energy, breathing, heart beating, blood pumping, all of that.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool.
And so then after that, you have to use the activity modifier. So depending if you have a really active job or if you're more sedentary, if you work out 1 to 3, 5 days or 5 days a week or 7 days a week, there's different multipliers I use. So I used yours as moderate, which was 3 to 5 days of exercise per week.
Okay.
And so that gave me your total daily energy expenditure. So that was 2,964 calories.
Wow. So
are you eating that much in a day?
Oh yeah. I absolutely am eating that much.
Okay.
I eat, I would say I probably eat about on the average of 3,000 to 35.
Okay.
So, I mean, now let me ask you this, what you just told me versus my BMR, am I adding those two up and that's my total burn? Or is the 2,900 my total burn?
Your 2,900 is your total burn.
Okay. That makes sense.
So, and that was using moderate. I don't know exactly how many calories you're burning. You could be the next tier up, which would, give you another couple hundred calories for sure.
I would suggest with my job being on my feet a lot and in a kitchen, moving stuff all the time. Now, that would probably, I don't know, that might push me up a tier, but let me ask you this, with the 3 to 5, does it expand as far as like the intensity level of the workout? Because there's like, maybe I could go to the gym and do some just kind of bodybuilding stuff where I'm sitting on a machine and just working more contraction than I am intensity. Or I could go, what's the highest intensity? I don't know. You could say CrossFit, where your heart rate's up for a solid, 12 minutes at a time. And, so does that extra activity level, does that play a part in that, is in the intensity of your lifting or whatever, or your workout?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So I would probably, if like you did more intense exercises versus machine, or if you did like power walking versus like jogging, or, like all those things, I'd bump you up a tier on top of your daily, like kind of busy, like work, like, so you have your base that you're existing at, and then you throw exercise on top of that. I would probably bump you up a tier.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, that is cool. What was the next one?
So then I calculated your macros. So for protein, I do that first, and then we work down from there. And then for that, there's also multipliers. So I use your weight and I times it by a decimal here. And I put you in the moderate to vigorous, which is more of the athletic kind of category for protein consumption. And then that separates into cardio and resistance training. So I put you in the resistance training, which means you get more protein if you're doing resistance training versus cardio. So your range for you to hit the suggestion would be 168 grams of protein to 217 grams of protein per day.
Wow. I would say I'm pretty darn close to that. I mean, there are some days that I may not get that, but I would say I always shoot for 200. I don't always get it, but like, I start my morning with a protein shake. I usually have one mid-afternoon. And then I'm eating actual like real meat protein in the night, plus eggs maybe in the morning. It's a close one. It's a close one. I do shoot for 200. I do surround myself with a lot of like, I don't know if you do this or if anybody out there listening does this, but when I'm looking at a snack, I'm looking at the protein value first every time for some reason. And that's just primarily to hit that number. But anyways, I digress.
So I picked the top of that range, I believe. I went with 170 grams because I wasn't sure where you were at with how you consumed it. And then I calculated your carbs and fats from there. So this is probably not what you actually use if you're eating 200 grams of protein.
Okay.
So, I mean, do you want me to go over that or I can recalculate it?
No, go over it. That's totally fine.
Okay. So if you were eating 170 grams of protein, that equals 680 calories for 170 grams of protein.
Okay.
So then I do your fat. So your fat should be 20 to 30, 35% of your daily calories, depending just on your lifestyle and what you like to eat is how I would adjust that.
Okay.
I gave you the top, like 30%. So I have your calories for that. So you get 99 grams of fat in a day, and that would be 889 calories.
I know I definitely eat more than that, but listen, I work at a restaurant, so there's not. I put things. How can I say this? I eat things that are just not. Not normal sometimes. Sometimes I'm
your flight of olive oil that you would try that's just a bunch of fat, right?
I mean, listen, I'll tell you and this is kind of an insight into what I do, but one of my most favorite things about my job is taste testing. Early on in my career, I got to do an olive oil taste testing where it was like 25 different olive oils. And you literally just put it on a spoon, you taste it, cleanse the palate, go to the next one. If you've never done that, give it a shot. Even if you go to the store, buy 3 different types and then taste the difference between the two. There are stark differences, but it was one of the most fun tasting things I've ever done. A lot of fat, though. Yes, you're right.
I thought your carbs were going to be very impressive because mine, so like just as a reference, because we're different sized people, right? So like my BMR is 600 calories less than yours. So I work at about 1,300 at baseline.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like I'm allowed a lot less of all of these things. When I saw your calories, you get 348 grams of carbs per day.
Yeah.
Which is 1,395 calories from carbs alone in a day, which is like all of my calories if I wasn't exercising.
Wowie. So, okay, this is really cool information. And if, say hypothetically, like if I was your client and we got these numbers, what do you do next? Do you take it? Do you sit down and I mean, do you use these numbers to calculate how, they move in exercise and in life, or what do you do with these numbers?
Yeah, I would say these are a guideline. I really like a wearable, like a watch, because it will tell you like your calories approximately that you burn a day. And so that kind of gives you a reference point of like, my watch is saying I burn about 1,600 calories a day. So if I'm trying to lose weight, I need to eat less than about 1,600 calories a day.
Okay.
So I use it as a guideline, but like metabolically, everyone is a little different. So like I'm a little more muscly,
there
and so
you
I
go.
feel like my watch doesn't know that. Like it just knows my height and my weight and that I'm a female, and it calculates that. But like my resting metabolic rate is higher because I have more muscle on my frame than the average woman.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So your watch doesn't give you the ability to pick, like, I guess, I don't know how it would do this, but like body types or anything like that. And I'm only asking because I don't have a wearable. I think Alana just got one. And so she's kind of tracking her steps just as a baseline of what she's doing. But
love it.
Because here's why I ask you this, because when I go to the doctor and I do my annual checkup or whatever, and we're talking about it, she's looking at me like, hey, according to your weight, you're obese. Your weight and and I'm like, okay, no, I get it. But you look at me, you know what I do in life. Like, do you think I'm obese? And she goes, I would like to see you drop like 10 pounds. And she's like, that's where I would really love to see you. And I was like, okay, I get that. And being in the sport that I'm in, my weight fluctuates a lot. I gave you 99 because that's the average. I weigh myself every morning, and I was at like 100.1 today. So, it fluctuates a lot. My water weight fluctuates. Anyways, so when the doctor says that to me, and then I look at this and I'm like, I like these numbers. Where's the gap there? How do you bridge that gap of like listening to what a doctor telling you you're obese, because words can really mess with people's brains. And then taking and saying, well, this is what I do. I know I'm not obese. I'm pretty athletic and I eat pretty well. What would you say to a client in that situation?
I would say, does your body allow you to do what you want? And how do you feel in it? So like, can you chase after your kids? Can you go for that run with your dog? Can you lift the weights you need to lift in your everyday life, or if you're exercising? Can you do that yoga pose? Like, if your body is limiting you because you have excess tissue somewhere, or because you're not strong enough to do the things, then I would say those are reasons to make changes. If you feel good and you like the way you look and you can do all the things you want to do, I feel like you're in a pretty good place for the most part.
And I like that answer, because the way I hear that when you say it is having self-awareness to your everyday movements. And I think it's really important. One thing that I really love this about my wife and what she does, but like she'll have a goal on what she wants to hit for, like, let's just use steps. She wants to hit 10,000 steps a day right now. That's her goal. And, we went on vacation recently and she was hitting like, anywhere from 11 to 15 and super excited, really happy. Right.
Yeah.
And we get home and she's like, how am I going to get these steps in? And I'm like, you just got to be intentional about it. But the difference in, being aware versus just like, kind of going through life thinking that you're doing good and not really being intentional about it is it can affect everything down to the mood. And I noticed that in her, I notice it in me. And as we get older, it's that much more important. And so being aware is just like, that is, I think, I think it's easily looked over.
I agree. And I think a lot of us take our bodies for granted until it doesn't do what you want it to do for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So like aging, I feel like is the one across the board that like people will start to notice like, oh, like I can't eat the way I used to be able to, or I can't drink the way I used to drink, or I can't, run off less sleep. And it's just like, you're not listening to your body. And finally, like your body is like to the point where it can't anymore.
Right.
And it's going to be a big change versus like taking inventory on a regular basis. I feel like.
Yeah. I agree with that.
That word, mindfulness.
Hey, there's that word. It's that word is very, it's very important when it comes to this stuff. And so in this topic, I kind of want to touch on like the idea of exercising and refueling and understanding kind of the important bullet points to that. And we had talked about it. You sent me a really great list of some very great things. And I wanted to go through this list. And the first thing on the list is timing. And this also kind of relates back to our wast podcast a little bit, which where you talked about protein. So there's all this timing stuff. So kind of go into what you meant about the timing aspect of refueling and exercise and all that.
Yeah. So I feel like to get the most out of your workout, you have to fuel appropriately before. And that depends on what you're doing. And so that was kind of what I was thinking. So if you're doing something that's resistance training, you can get away with less carbs and just protein, or focusing on getting enough protein in. But if you're going to do anything that's cardio, to get the best performance, you really need like 30 grams of protein before. And that's like an hour to 2 hours before your workout.
Okay.
Because our body runs off of carbs, like for performance for the most part.
Yeah.
If you're doing something that's low cardio requirement, so something that I call it zone 1 or zone 2, they're like your cardiovascular zones. There's 1 through 5. Your body can use fat to fuel those exercises because the metabolic demand on your body is lower. And so it has time to convert fat to fatty acids and then to use it. Versus if you're doing something that's more taxing, your body needs energy now. And so it's going to use your glycogen storage in your muscles and your liver and in your blood supply. So if you eat like an hour to 2 hours before, you're going to have that carbohydrates broke down to glucose running through your blood, and it can gobble that up and fuel your workout. And once your body runs out of that glucose in your blood and that glycogen in your muscles and liver, then it has to use fat, and it's just slower. And so I don't know if you've ever done a cardio workout and you like hit the wall, you like feel because your body's running out of material to fuel it, and it's having to slow down the process.
Yeah. That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the before part, that's kind of what I was thinking, is you should try and have 15 grams of protein before a workout. And if you're doing cardio, add 30 grams of carbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the question there for you is, and this is a very biased question, because everybody knows what I do on this podcast that listens to it. I do weightlifting. And there are at least, I can think, 3 sessions in my week of lifting where I am under pretty heavy load. And it's taking every ounce of energy that I can use to lift this bar off the ground and do what I need to do to get under it and lift it up. Now, you talked about cardio and adding those. Now, technically, I guess that's resistance training if you're going to look at that. So does resistance training add another level? Is cardio kind of like the highest level? Where do those two things sit on the priority?
I would say your heart rate intensity is going to tell you what you need. And so that's the fun of a wearable is
I like that.
It tells me, like on my watch, it'll give me like a little speedometer, and it tells me like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 where I'm at in it. And so like if you're doing your sets and you get your heart rate up into zone 3 or zone 4, then you should be having carbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. Excuse me. Okay. So, I'm not going to go, I don't think we should go down this road too far, but the idea of eating carbs has kind of a negative feel to it. You tell somebody to eat carbs, they're going to be like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to eat carbs," or I don't process carbs. And then you're looking at them like, okay, if you want to get through this race, or if you want to get through this run, you need some carbs in you. Yeah. So when it comes down to carbs, one thing I learned, and this is on the food side of things, is carbs don't mean bread.
Right.
Carbs don't mean bread. And I mean, I need to put that out there because and myself included early on in life, thought carbs was bread, dough, all the right. Donuts, and that's not it. One of my best and most favorite sources of carbs is the stalk on broccoli, full of carbs, full of vitamin C. Like, if you're not using all of your broccoli when you roast it, you're really missing out. That's all I'm going to say, because that is a great source of carbs. If I'm really gearing up for something really big, I will eat some white rice for breakfast. That is something that my body can handle. I know that not everybody's body can handle that, but it not only gives me a punch of energy, but my body somehow reacts really well to rice.
Yeah.
But it's different to oatmeal. Go ahead.
Everyone's different. Like,
yeah,
Damon's the same way. Rice is hard on his belly, but he likes potatoes, and so potatoes are a good source of carbs.
Great source of carbs. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're complex carbs. I mean, like if you need fast energy, you go eat an orange slice if you don't want to, eat candy or eat candy. Some people that's a mid-training session thing. I'm not a fan of that personally.
That's not a me thing.
Okay.
I don't like. Now, if I'm at a competition and I'm in between my lifts and I'm like feeling lightheaded, I might throw some sugar in my belly. But it is not a consistent thing. Like if I'm downstairs, I'll be, for reference, I lift in my garage. But if I'm downstairs and I start feeling myself lightheaded, it's usually like, hey, honey, can you bring me a Cliff Bar? Or I'll come upstairs and grab some sort of handful of almonds or something. That is a better source of energy than putting in candy. And I know that all the weightlifters out there are probably cursing me out right now, but whatever.
I mean, I agree. Just like the part of me that doesn't love all the fake ingredients that are in a lot of candies.
Yeah.
You could just take a spoonful of honey, like that's
exactly.
a super simple way to get fast energy in. And that's not a big thing sitting in your belly or anything. It's just like the running goos, like people use in marathons. It's like that. Yeah. But just nature's version.
Yeah. And those things work. I mean, I used to run, I was big into running like the Spartan race, and for a handful, I think 4 years, I did the Spartan race, and led teams of people through it, and it was just a lot of fun. I did it. I didn't really think of it as competitively. I thought about it as something, an accomplishment, and it was something fun that I could help other people get through after a while. But I used to do that, where I would pack, a little thing of the goo, and it helps. You feel it, and in those moments, which I'm kind of thinking right now, Damon is out there running. I hope he has some carbs on him.
Yeah, the race, they have stations, and they said they have snacks, electrolytes, goo, and water at every station. There's like 9 of them along the marathon. He's doing the half, but
yes,
so he'll have plenty of opportunities. It sounds like
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of talked about timing. We talked about a little bit. Oh wait, did you finish on the what to eat and timing and all that?
No, I would like to finish on the post part.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah, so afterwards, if you can, it is beneficial to try and get something in your stomach like within an hour afterwards.
Yeah.
Most important for women, just like I saw this amazing podcast, and this Dr. Stacy Sims, she's like specialized really in like women and athletics and metabolism, because a lot of research is on men's bodies. So she's specialized in women's bodies, but she says that women are not little men. Like we're not the same. We're not a miniature version of men. So chemically in our brain, if we are without sugar, carbs, protein for too long, like post-workout, our body goes into catabolic system, and so it's eating itself. And lean mass muscle is the most expensive thing to maintain, so that's the first thing to go. So if you're really trying to build muscle as a woman, it's important to get protein in within an hour, or at least some protein and some carbs.
I like that, because one thing that does, sorry to interrupt you, but
no, please go ahead.
There is a theory out there, and I hear it a lot, and people ask me, which is, when do I take my protein after my workout? I was told I have to take it within 30 minutes or it's useless. It's not useless. It's just optimal. It's optimal to get it in within an hour. But if you can't, still get it in.
Yes.
They'll find a way.
They'll find a way. And I would say, just touching on that, because Nazem talked about that specific thing actually, and it's optimal. Yes, it wouldn't hurt to get it in right afterwards.
Correct.
But like what will make the most impact is if you can eat protein throughout your day, and hitting your total goal by the end of the day.
Yes.
So your body makes protein when it gets a certain amount of it makes muscle when you eat enough protein in a sitting. It kind of triggers the protein synthesis. So if you can keep the muscle building machine going all day, you will build more muscle by the end of the day than if you just hit your protein at the end of your workout. So 20 grams is what is needed. And if you can do that every like 3 or 4 hours, start your day, you're going to make the most muscle.
Awesome.
At the end. It was like the people who did that made like 20 something % more muscle than the groups that did like 2 giant protein hits, or people who did like, was it five or 6 like small protein hits throughout the day.
Yeah. I like that. And that right there, what it tells me, I guess, as I'm hearing it, is you're not just like, doing this slam of protein, because I hate to keep using my wife as an example, but she has a very sensitive tummy. So, slamming a bunch of protein doesn't help that. And so spanning it over your day, understanding like what Sarah told me in the beginning of understanding your protein daily intake, these numbers that she did are so important to understand that you're not going to get that in 2 sittings. And if you do, I feel sorry for your stomach. But span it over a course of your day, get it in, make sure that you're intentional with after your workout. Maybe you save 35% of it for after your workout, whatever. But I really think having intention to do that creates balance within your diet. I mean, only good things can come from that, right?
Exactly. No, it'll help with satiety too. Like, I feel like a general goal is if you can hit at least 30 grams of protein in each meal, that will help, get to your goal of at the end of the day, a good chunk of it, and have a protein snack as well. But by doing that, you'll help with your satiety and hopefully not get hungry right away, just because it's going to take longer to work through your system than if you ate a carb heavy, lower protein meal.
Correct. And I like that. I mean, it's, I don't ever want to tell people what type of protein to eat. And we really went in this on the last one. But don't just go out there and do like a bunch of protein shakes and protein bars. Now, if that's all you have access to, then yeah, hit it up. But, play around with the types of protein. Go for, your natural proteins over the synthetic ones, always and forever. But that's, I guess that's my little spiel. Just try not to do it all synthetic protein because, again, everybody's body's differently and everybody's body's going to break that down differently. But I always think the natural proteins are the best way to go.
And it's interesting. I'll be curious. I haven't seen much about it, but I'm curious if people absorb more natural proteins versus synthetics, or more synthetics versus natural. Just something, a part of like aging I learned recently is the reason older folks need more protein is because their digestive system is not as effective of breaking down the food. Therefore, they can't absorb as much protein. So you may be eating the same number you did 10 years ago, but your body's absorbing 10% less than it was before.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, hey, listen, I think I take enough protein, but I'm gonna relook at that, because I am aging. I know, whatever. I'm not gonna go down that road. Okay, let's keep on topic here. So next subject, different zones of a workout, what happens in the body, recovery, rebuilding. Let's talk a little bit about that. What do you have to say about it?
So zone 1 and 2 are what we call fat burning zones. And so that means your fat is your energy source through it. And once you hit 3, 4, or 5, your body needs more energy to maintain that level of activity. And so it switches over to your glycogen or glucose for fuel.
Okay.
When we are doing those higher levels, we will burn more calories, but we're not burning fat. And people are like, ooh, I don't want to I'm trying to lose weight. So I'm trying to do fat burning things. And so people will gravitate towards maybe power walking on incline versus doing like a jog.
Right.
I want to kind of debunk this myth that if you do fat burning exercises, you'll lose fat.
Exactly.
You have to be in a caloric deficit to lose fat.
Yes.
Your body is constantly throughout the day, even when you're not exercising, using fat and storing fat and using fat and storing fat. And so you have to use more than you're putting back in. So I love that you're going to go for a power walk on that incline. That's great. But if you're not eating a caloric deficit, then you're not going to burn the fat. So like you could go for the jog if you have less time to burn the 300 calories, say, then it would take you to burn 300 calories walking. So
yes, I like that you said that. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've kind of obsessed, I feel like, with right now, with not just you and me, but our culture with like weight loss and fat burning, and fat is bad. And I want to say that it's not bad. We are made to have fat on us.
Correct.
It's healthy.
Yes, it is.
But if your goal is to lose weight and you're obese, it means you just have more fat on your body. You need to be in a caloric deficit to do that.
So. I mean, it's like the simple napkin math. And I talk about this with a handful of people. I can think of one person specifically at work that I talk to about this a lot. And it's like, the equation is easy, but what is all easy is not always simple. And there's something to be said about that, because we can look at it and be like, calorie deficit. Okay, check. Cardio, check. Why aren't I burning? But it's a lot more complicated than that. But at the same point, like, man, if you know these numbers that Sarah went through at the very beginning of the show, then you know what your calorie deficit needs to be, and then you can start losing the fat that you want to lose, or the weight that you want to lose. So I just wanted to say that, but keep on going with this, because that was a really good point. I just had to interject.
Oh, absolutely. So I think that, like, to be a healthy individual, you should be getting a little bit of both. I feel like if you're an athlete, you're going to get more of the zone 3 or 4 or 5. But recent studies have been showing that, like, for aging populations, it's really helpful to sprint in some form. Now, you don't have to actually run, but like to get your heart rate up to zone 4 and then have it come back down is really beneficial for your metabolic system. So they were talking about doing 5 of these and do like 30 seconds of just all out, like bike or burpees or squats or whatever, to get your heart rate up, and then rest all the way back down to zone 2. So like normal breathing, not huffing and puffing. So yeah, that's for an aging population. I feel like you're like, sprint? No way. I haven't sprinted in years. I could never. I mean, it doesn't have to actually be a run, but to like get your heart rate up and back down is super helpful for your body.
Also, a good reason why to have a wearable, because that does track your heart rate, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right.
And you can actually, I mean, and there's all kinds of stuff you can look up on free workouts. You can look up online, an EMOM, there's all kinds of stuff you can look at. Interval training is great for getting your heart rate up and then back down, and then up and then back down. And there's multiple movements. So I'm glad that you recognize like that. It doesn't have to be sprinting, but it's a sprint like heart rate. And so, I mean, I can tell you my heart rate's going to get up if I do 10 burpees. Because if I go sprint, I'm probably going to pull a hamstring at some point, because up here thinks I'm 20. My body knows I'm not.
Right.
But keep that in mind. So, if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I can't sprint, you don't have to sprint, is what she's saying. And she did clearly say that. So, and let's talk about a little bit about the recovery and rebuilding. So talk about that. Tell me everything you know.
I feel like people think that my gains come when I'm exercising. And so that time is really important. And the rest of my day doesn't matter. And the rest of my life doesn't matter for my gains.
Yeah.
Gains meaning either your muscle growth or just recovery time, or your, if you're a cardio person, like how fast you can do whatever and recover.
Yeah.
It is all the other time of the day. It matters how much you sleep. It matters how you feel your body. It matters how you stretch. It matters if you're doing like plyometrics or dynamic, like cool down and warm up. Like all of that play into how your body will recover. It's not just that time under the bar or the time on the treadmill or in class or whatever your workout of preference is.
Yeah. And as far as I like that you even have this topic on here because recovery is so important for the simple fact of it allows you to keep on doing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And recovery is a very big one in the sport that I'm in because if you don't recover properly, then you start pulling muscles, you start hurting your backs, you start hurting your knees, you roll, all kinds of things can happen at a very quick rate. And when those things happen in this sport, you can't do it. You just can't do it. And you shouldn't be doing it until you're fully recovered. So I always think that like people talk about getting to the gym is the hardest part. In my opinion, the recovery is the hardest part, because there are a lot of methods out there to recover. And one of the things that we've talked about today that's part of recovery is fueling and making sure that your body is fueled. That's part of recovery. For you, what are some of the things you advise as far as like good after, post workout, whatever recovery stuff that people can do besides eating?
Besides eating?
Yeah.
I would say getting 7 hours at least of sleep. So your body's doing so much repairing while you're sleeping. If you don't do that, that's probably one of the biggest things that will affect your recovery. So you can 100%. Work real hard in the gym, but if you're only getting 5 hours of sleep, your body's going to make less progress than if you did the same work and you slept 7 more hours.
Correct. And guess what, people? Sleep is free. I'm sorry. Hey! So it's not like we have to pay a membership to go sleep. It's not like we have to like go to the store and make something or whatever. Sleep is free. And it just takes a little bit of discipline to get it in bed at the right time.
Yeah. Sleep hygiene, I feel like, is part of that, and something that I've been paying more attention to in the last year or so is just like at nighttime, turning off your overhead lights and try and get a couple lamps, it's just so it's lower light levels in the room. Try and get off your phone an hour before and like either like just be with your family or read or stretch or do some little cleaning if that's like, whatever it takes to keep you off your phone. That blue light that you're looking at is like telling your body that it's daylight still.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that you said that. It's like moving around, getting stuff done, having goals, having tasks. I recently just heard an idea of it's the 5-4-3-2-1. It's like when you're when you're sitting there and you're like, I should be doing something, pick what you should be doing. If it's like, I need to get up and, vacuum the upstairs, 5-4-3-2-1, go. And then just get up.
Yeah.
And it's up here. It's psychological, but it allows you to be intentional about it. And I've heard of it doing some really good things for people. So there's a whole book on it. I forget the name of the doctor who wrote it, but I'm just barely touching on it, but yeah, go out there and look at that method.
I love that.
So recovery, so we got eating, we got sleep. Those are the two, I think, probably most important. Now, if we're going to go venture outside of the box of like what to do, like, you talked about stretching, but I'm a big fan of hot water or cold water. That too. Yeah. Any type of water submersion. I like that. I also like a dry sauna. Oh yeah. What are some of the things that you do?
I do love a sauna. I like to do contrast therapy as well. At our gym, they have a cold plunge and a hot tub like right next to each other. And so I'll do a circuit of hot tub for a couple minutes and then cold plunge for 1 minute or a minute and a half and then go back in and warm up. And it's just helping like wring out all your tissue, which helps remove the toxins out, helps bring more blood flow in. It's such like vasodilating and vasoconstricting those tissues.
I love that. And that's a really good explanation for what that does. It wrings out the muscles and it gets that crap out of there. And I don't know about you, but when I do contrast therapy like that or contrast whatever. I do it from the sauna to the cold tank.
Mhm.
And does this happen to you? Does your heart rate get up? Because my heart rate will start to, like, after about the 7th interval, my heart rate is going.
Mm.
It's
I'm curious.
interesting.
I know that like my heart rate and everyone's heart rate goes up when you're in the sauna,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it's that or if it is, I don't know, if it's just like the contrast, what would be doing it. But I feel like also if you're doing enough cold exposure, I feel like your body could get triggered into like a sympathetic response, I think is the correct term, which
Yeah.
is more your fight mode. So your heart
Yes.
rate would have to go up for that.
And that's, I mean, usually that's the point where I'm like, okay, I'm good. Because
It's enough of that one.
yeah, we're
Yeah.
done with this part of recovery. But yeah, usually that's like my sensor, my like, oh, my heart rate's up pretty high right now. Okay, I'm done. I'm calling it. But I think it's a really good thing to do. And what about what's your take on stretching? Like we talked about a little bit. Do you stretch before? Do you stretch after? Is it a recovery or is it a prerequisite? Like, what do you think about stretching?
I think so. I like to do like a plyometric or dynamic warm up before.
Yeah,
That's just like
dynamic's good.
prepping your joints and your muscles to start moving versus a static stretch afterwards. I feel like is helping to release those little, how do I describe it? Kind of like kinks in your muscle fibers getting stuck together and that makes knots.
Yeah.
So lengthening out the muscles will help kind of untease those, and then you're going to be stretching and helping releasing your fascia. That's like covers every muscle group, which will help with your flexibility, which will help prevent injury.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I
I like
do
that.
like to do stretching afterwards, and holding it for a long time and breathing through each area if possible. And if you feel it burning, if that's usually your fascia starting to like separate,
Yeah.
which is good.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
If
Yeah.
you feel something like stabbing, you're going too far. But like a burning sensation is that fascia kind of sounds really bad, like kind of detaching Velcro style from your muscles that have been
Yep.
stuck together. So
And that is isn't that, if I'm not mistaken, that's where the knots come from. I think you just kind of said that is when you don't do that, and it just creates these knots. Something I like to do a lot is I'll just jump up on my pull-up bar and I'll hang, do a passive hang, and I try to stay up there for about 2 minutes. I don't always make it 2 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah. I at one time in life I could do 2 minutes 50 seconds was the longest I'd ever done it. But it's something that my body craves at this point. Like it wants that. It's I'm like, oh, I gotta go hang, and then I feel so great afterwards. So what I'm trying to say by telling you that is that, like, everybody, find the thing that you like to do, because then it just becomes a little bit more easy. And but like I said before, what's easy is not always simple. So find the groove, because that's what all this is about, is finding that groove to eating, living, and being happy in life. Right. I have one more thing written down on here before we run out of time here, but creatine. Talk about creatine.
Oh, yeah, creatine. I feel like it's becoming more popular, and we're like, at least I'm hearing more about it.
Yes.
And creatine is something that you can take as a supplement, but it's something that our body makes as well.
Correct.
And it's something that you consume when you eat meat products. And so creatine naturally exists in our bodies. It goes into your muscle fibers and helps with performance. So it helps your recovery. It pulls water to it. So water more in your muscles makes them more bulky, which is nice, but also
Yes, it does that.
helps with the performance part. It helps you recover faster in between sets, and it helps you less likely to get injury, and it helps you stay hydrated. So I'm a big fan of creatine. And it also is now having more, not just like, it's for your gains, dude, like a, lifting bro thing. Did you have your creatine? It's also like great for your brain.
Yep.
They're finding more research is that creatine is aiding in anything that is a high energy consuming tissue.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah. So for your brain is like constantly using sugar. Also, your gut is a high activity area, and so they're finding that it's helpful for your gut health as well. And then
Oh,
if
that's
right?
new. Awesome.
Yeah. And then if you're exercising, your muscles are being highly they're taking in energy very quickly as well. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I like creatine, I think, for all of those factors. I feel like I have noticed, like physically, I can see on my body that my muscles look bigger. I feel like
Mhm.
I've noticed that my performance is better in my like workouts. I can't say I've noticed personally memory benefits, but that's
Yeah.
what some of the researchers show. Oh my gosh, I'm stumbling on my words.
Okay. Trust me. Sunday.
People with memory diseases, part of it is that their brain is becoming insulin resistant. And so their brain tissue isn't taking up the glucose from their blood as much. And so their brain can't function as well.
Oh,
So if you can
interesting.
make the cells take in the sugar, the brain cells can work better. So the
Yeah.
creatine is helping with that mechanism.
Oh, love that. That's awesome. I didn't know all that stuff. I knew some of it, but the brain health is big. I know that I've heard for some reason when I read about this specific thing with creatine, it's always kind of designated for women, and I don't know why that is, but it says that bone density it's good for bone density as well.
Mhm.
And I always like that, and that always raises a question for me,
Mhm.
which and maybe you can answer, and maybe you can't. But at what age can you start creatine? What is there a bad age to start it? Is there a good age? Is there an age you shouldn't? Like, should a 10-year-old be taking creatine? Should an
Mm,
80-year-old be taking creatine? It's
yes.
like, yes. Okay, cool.
I would say the research hasn't shown any negative side effects of creatine.
Correct.
So I think it is safe for all ages to take it. The amount that someone who's younger would be taking, I think, would be less,
Yeah.
but I don't actually know.
Yeah.
But our muscle and bone density start to decline in our 30s onward.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I am well
if
aware
you
of
can
that.
start taking it in your 30s or even in your 20s to help boost up your muscle percentage and your bone density, it'll just carry you on that decline, will be a little less steep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, and I think I got time for one little last story, but when I was a sophomore in high school, I was big, 3-sport athlete. All my friends, we were all 3-sport athletes, whatever. But I had one friend in that group that over the summer, he went away for a little bit to a job and worked a summer job and then came back. But he worked out a lot while he was at this summer job, and he came back and looked like he put on like 25 pounds.
Mm.
And this was, okay, mind you, this was in the 1900s. No,
Sorry.
this was in 1994. Okay. And he came back, and everybody's like, what the heck did he just do? Like, he's massive now. And he's like, I started taking creatine.
Mm-hmm.
And back then, it was like you put your creatine in your grape juice because the sugar activates it. And a bottle of creatine this big was like $200. And it was like
Oh.
this, oh my gosh thing. Like, are you taking steroids? Just from the evolution of that to where we are now and what we know about creatine is so awesome, because I'm like, it is a daily thing I drink it in the morning. I drink a little bit at night, and it's such a good thing to put in your body. My opinion, hands down, the best supplement that you can have in your household. If it's outside of food, right? But supplement.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think everyone should be taking it.
Yeah.
And just hitting on why you hear more about women is because men store more creatine in their body naturally than women do. We have about 80% of the storage of creatine in our muscles and body that men do. So it's like really beneficial for women to take it. You have to like front load it so that it actually saturates your tissues for it to do its full job.
Okay. That makes total sense. Sarah, this has been a great show. a lot of information. I hope that people are like taking notes when they're listening to this one, because it is seriously like you gave some serious stuff here. So, and that goes to show you that if this is something that's important to you, get a hold of her, talk to her, because it's going to be, I mean, I took a page of notes. So, you're going to get 10 times this as being a client. So get a hold of Sarah if you're interested. And it's obvious that she has all the knowledge needed in helping you reach your goals. So there's my little plug. Sarah, you have a finish line to get to. I have to go out and get Jack out to a birthday party. And thank you. This has been a great show.
Yeah, thanks. This was really fun, and I hope everyone learned a lot. And yeah, please reach out if you have any more questions about anything we just talked about today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening, and have a great week. We'll see you in a little bit, I guess, next month for the show, right?
Yeah.
There it is. All right. Adios.
See ya.